So you've put hours into crafting the perfect website in Figma, only to hit that familiar wall. Your beautiful layout is just a static image, a PNG, and getting it live on the web as a real.com website feels like a whole separate painful project. You could hire a pricey developer or sink weeks into learning a complex tool like Webflow. It's just frustrating. Well, what if I told you that there's a super simple way? In this video, I'll show you the absolute easiest method to turn those Figma designs into fully functional live websites in just a few minutes. My name is Nandi, this is Figma University, and let's get started. So here we are in Figma. I actually got this marketing agency landing page design from the community, and yeah, let's say we designed this little website, and we want to get it live on the internet. It's actually really unfortunate that when you do design something in Figma, all you get is a simple PNG. So it's not a real website. You cannot like send it to your friends. You cannot sell it to your clients. It's just an image. You can see on the right panel, you can export it as a JPEG or PNG as with your PDF. Yeah, you cannot do much with it, to be honest. The problem is that Figma is not really a website builder, right? It's just a design tool. You can prototype with it. You cannot really create like real working websites with it. So if you want to turn this into something that is actually usable and you can visit on the live internet, you have a few different options. You can either hire a developer and they're going to develop it for you, maybe with HTML and CSS or with some other frameworks. You also have an option for dedicating your own time into learning a complex tool like Webflow or something like that, which can take some time because you still need to learn some HTML, some CSS to be able to use Webflow in a way that you can actually build websites like this with it. But you also have a third option, which is actually what I'm going to show you in this video, which is actually taking this design and turning it into a Framer website in just a couple of minutes. If you don't believe me, let me show you. So all you do is you select your design in Figma. So you can see here it is. It's called landing page. It is here on my canvas. And all I have to do is press Command and K on my keyboard and then search for Figma to Framer and then run this plugin. And all this does is it just copies these elements to my clipboard. So I just click here, copy to clipboard. And now all of the content is now on my clipboard. So I can go jump into Framer. So that is what I'm going to do. Create a new project. So I'm just starting a project from blank. Let's wait a couple of seconds. And here, once we have the untitled, like basic default project, we can just press Command and V on our keyboard. And there it is. We have our design right here. You're going to see that it's not perfect. We have to do a few things in order to make sure that it's nice and we can actually publish this to the internet. But I'm going to show you it's really easy. First thing that we have to do is we have to turn the desktop breakpoint into a stack. Stacks in Framer are basically the same thing as auto layout in Figma. So later in this video, you're going to also notice that Figma and Framer is kind of the same thing. So you kind of build in a really similar way. So all we do is select the desktop breakpoint. On the right panel, we click here next to layout and boom, now our desktop breakpoint is a stack. Then this landing page that we've just pasted in, we just want to make sure that it is set to width fill, but it is, so it's pretty good. Why width fill? Well, because we want responsive behavior, right? And yeah, basically that's it. And then in order to make sure that the full website is visible, we could either resize this desktop breakpoint to make sure everything is included, but we want to make sure that it's responsive. So we just set a responsive height set to fit content. It's basically the same thing as hug in Figma. So now it's pretty good. We can press Command and P in order to like visit it in the preview and resize our website, but you can see that on smaller viewports it doesn't really look cool, right? So all we have to do in order to fix this is we have to go to breakpoint and add the tablet and the phone breakpoint, and we'll just add the really simple changes to the layout in order to optimize this right here. It's important to note that to make this super easy in Framer, we have to make sure that in Figma, we already prepared our design with nice structure and setup. So you can see that here it is using auto layout for the most part. So, this makes our life a little easier in Framer. So all I do here is, for example, I make these little bubbles here and I just change their position to make sure that they're positioned like this. The problem is that here now they're positioned relatively. I will need absolute position so that I can move it anywhere. So this is what I'm going to do with both of these. I'm going to set them to absolute and then move them right here, which is actually perfect. And then let's see what else I need to do. Yeah, I think that step looks pretty good. And then here, all I need to do is just select this hero here and set the direction of the right panel to vertical. This is basically the same setting that we have in Figma. You can see here, direction, you can change it to horizontal, vertical. So Framer again and Figma works in pretty similar ways. And you're gonna slowly realize that why the hell did I build this thing in Figma? I could have just went into Framer and built it the same way with the same tools, but more about that later. So we just changed direction to vertical, so now it looks a little bit better. It fits well into this smaller breakpoint. Maybe we can center this text here. I don't know if that looks better, but let's just do this. I'm going to center it here as well. And then let's look at these logos. These are not really looking cool, so I'm going to select their parent frames and I'm going to set the distribute to start here, and I'm going to change wrapping to yes. So now you can see that the items or the logos that couldn't fit into this line, they're just wrapping into new lines, and I can change the gap here to something much smaller. And I think I'm going to also set the distribute to center instead, so they are nicely centered like this. And then I'll just have to do similar modifications on the phone as well. So I'll just go here to the hero and set vertical. And then I'm going to also make sure that we have a little bit less, padding on the left and right, because this padding is pushing text to the center very much, and that doesn't really look cool. So I'm going to set it to 20 and 20. I'm going to probably do the same thing on the nav bar, so we have less space on the left and right. This again, padding value, same that you have in Figma. Padding here basically does the same thing, so this shouldn't be anything new if you are, experienced in Figma. Then I'm going to just make sure that here, this text layer is set to fill. I'm going to center it. I'm going to also set this one to fill and center it, so they're nicely filling up the available space. And yeah, centering the button as well. I'm going to change the gap here, so these images are a little bit further away from the button. And yeah, this looks great. Let's set this text as well to fill width, so it's filling up the space. You can see again, padding is too much, so on the left and right I'm changing it to 20. And then these frames here should also again be center and wrapping yes, 20, 20 for the gap. So it's nice and responsive. What else do we need to do here? If you look at this, you can see that most of the things are nicely getting responsive when we resize the page. Oops, you can see that this is not really looking cool. This probably happens because here the alignment is on the left, so we just have to set it to the center. Let's check it out now. It still is happening, so probably we have to go here to the hero title, and yes, I think this needs to be centered. But let me take a look at here as well. Yes, this alignment is also on the left, should be centered, so now it should be good. And if I resize, yeah, everything is nicely centered. But again, what you see is that the layout is changing, these logos are breaking into new lines and everything, but the text is not really, scaling as it should. So in Framer, making responsive text is super easy. All we do is we use RAM units instead of pixels. So all I do is I set these large heading, for example, the H1, and I set the size from pixel to RAM. That's it. Nothing has changed, but wait a second. I'm going to do the same with this text layer here. I'm going to switch it to RAM, and I'm going to also make sure that the letter spacing is M, And then the line height is also M, which is like that on that one. But I think here, yes, we have to set the letter spacing on the heading 1 to M, decrease it slightly, and then the line height should be M as well, maybe 1 point, maybe just 1. Why I'm doing this? Because M is basically a unit that takes the size of the text layer and then, you know, changes the either the letter spacing or the line height based on the text size. So when eventually we're going to have smaller text size on smaller breakpoints, the letter spacing is also nicely like adapting to that change. If you use pixel, it's just going to be staying fixed. But you know, that's maybe I'm just over explaining it. So now we changed all of these to RAM. So this text layer and this text layer is also RAM sized. These smaller ones can stay fixed. 20 pixel fits well in all screen sizes. And then what we do is we just change the base font size on tablet and phone. Because what RAM does is it just multiplies the base font size, and that's how we get a pixel value. So for example, you can see that on tablet we have 16 pixel base size. If I change that to, let's say 14, you can see that the text is getting smaller. And if I go here to phone and change the 16 to something even smaller, maybe, I don't know, 7, now you can see that it's really small, but maybe I want to do something like 10, because you can see that this is also scaling down. And yeah, basically that's it. Now you can see that the text is also nicely scaled down and it's perfectly responsive. Yeah, I like that really much. And yeah, let's think about what else do we need to do. I guess nothing really, but I'm gonna go the extra mile and just show you how easy it is to like add interactions to elements in Framer. So let's say you want to make this button actually like clickable, have a hover state on it or something. So all you do is you right click it, you create a component. I'm gonna just you know, maybe rename this to button so it makes a little bit more sense. And then here we are on the component canvas. We can just click here under the variant, create a hover state. And we just change a few things. We make the color darker, and maybe we can actually have a little arrow appear on hover. So for that, I'm going to go to the insert panel on the top left, search for icon, and just drag and drop this hero icon pack here. Yes, it is that easy to add icons in to our designs in Framer. We just search for arrow right or right arrow. I don't know exactly how it's right here, but I think it's arrow right. And then I'm just gonna paste it within this variant, change the color to white, make it a little bit smaller, maybe something like 22. And then on the primary variant, we're gonna set it to absolute and switch the opacity to 0, so it's invisible. And on the hover state, we just wanna make sure that it's visible, so opacity 1, and the position should be relative again. So when I hover over, it nicely appears. Looks really cool, the animation is smooth, and what we can also do is we can select the variant here and we can add a link maybe to the Framer University website. So now if we preview and we click the get started, we will open the Framer.University website. Really cool. Now if we want to publish this website to the internet, all we have to do is we have to go to the top right and click publish. Yes, it's that easy. Again, you're gonna get this URL here, which looks a little weird. You can get a little bit nicer domain by adding a domain here. You can get a free Framer subdomain, so I can say Framer Uni Tutorial, and there you go, Framer Uni Tutorial.framer.website, and it is right here. Well, we actually noticed a little issue with this. It's just too wide. I'm using a quite large monitor and it is really wide right here. So let's fix that really quickly. Again, I just want to show it to you because in Framer, these are things that we can fix really simply. All we do is we select the specific frames that get super wide. For example, you can see this right here and add a max width to them. So for example, hero, we can add max width, 1000 pixels. And we can also do the same thing with this right here. We don't have these wrapped in a frame, so I can do that really easily. I can select these two, wrap them in a stack, so right click, add stack, maybe change the gap to a little bit larger value. So basically, again, this is auto layout in Figma. And then I can wrap these two here in another stack, and then we can have, I don't know what I did, but I wanted to wrap these two in a stack and set the gap to 70. And now on this stack, I can set the max width to the same 1000 pixel value. And basically that's the fix. Now if I publish the website and I go back to here, refresh, now we're gonna see that everything looks nice, except the fact that this is right here. Let's fix it really quickly. All we have to do is, again, on the hero section, we have to fix the alignment. This is just because, we, ported it from Figma, and in Figma, some of these settings were, all over the place because, the creator of that design wasn't really thinking about responsiveness, right? So yeah, in Framer we have to think about this because it is actually a website that will be viewed on different devices. So yeah, as you can see, it just works. It's here on the internet. You can see Framer Uni tutorial.framer.website. It just works. Okay, so let me tell you a secret. Actually, the fastest website creators are skipping Figma. So they are not going into Figma and creating these designs right here. They are jumping straight into Framer, and you saw the reasons why. In Framer, you basically do the same things. It's literally like Figma, but at the end, you're not going to just have a PNG that you can do nothing with, but you're going to actually have a real working website on the internet that is fully responsive and functional. So, for example, in Figma, you drew frames to create these little shapes or rectangles. You basically do the same thing in Framer. You press F on your keyboard and draw a frame. The same thing. Okay, what else do you do in Figma? You create components. Okay, so you have this button here. You right click and you create a component. I don't even know where is the component creation. Okay, so it's right here. Create component, and now this is a component. In Framer, you do the same thing. You select something, you right click and create a component, and then you can have different like hover states and all sorts of different things added to that really easily. Okay, so in Figma, you also use auto layout. So for example, this stack right here, not a stack, it's actually an auto layout, but yeah, this frame right here is an auto layout. You can see it on the right panel. It has, size here, direction, alignment, and everything, gap, padding. These are the same settings that we see right here. So here, this is a stack. Again, the name is different, stack or auto layout in Figma. Here we have direction, distribute, start, center. These are basically the properties right here. Alignment, wrapping, gap, padding. Basically, these are the same settings that we see right here, just laid out a little bit differently. Okay, so for example, in Figma, we also use relative sizing options for different layers. So for example, this text here is filling up the container. So if I change its parent, the text is nicely breaking into multiple lines. And in Framer, you basically do the same thing. You select the text layer, and on the right panel, you set it to a width fill. In Figma, fill container. In Framer, width fill. Same thing. And again, if I set this parent frame, it's nicely scaling. But this should also be set to width fill, and they will both nicely break into multiple lines. You can see, again, same thing as in Figma. You can draw SVGs in Figma. So you press down P and you draw something, and you have a little illustration, right? Well, you might say, Nandi, you can definitely not do that in Framer. Well, you actually can. Here we are in Framer, we press down P and we are drawing our little illustration here. And we can also set the width, the stroke, the fill color, and everything. And we have our SVGs right inside of Framer. So, the fastest website creators are realizing these facts, and they're just skipping Figma. They're going straight into Framer, and yeah, they're designing and building the website and developing the website at the same time, saving a ton of time. And they also realize that it's actually not complex. So basically just for the same reasons, like if you look at Framer, it's not a complex app. You have the same left layers panel, just like in Figma. You have the same right properties panel. Actually, I think it looks a little bit more friendly if you compare it to Figma. maybe it's just my personal opinion, but I think it's a little bit more friendly. So yeah, it's not a complex, app. You don't need to learn like technical like web development terms or like HTML and CSS, like you would actually need to do if you were to learn Webflow or something like that. So actually, it's no coincidence that Framer actually overtook Webflow not so long ago, according to Google Trends. So if we go to the browser and we go to Google Trends, we search for Framer and Webflow, and we look at the worldwide past 5 years, you can actually see that Framer is taking over Webflow. And I think the reason for this is because Figma designers who are like building websites in Figma, they're like realizing that if we want to build real working websites, we better start with Framer to save time, because we are designing it in Figma and then building it in another tool. It's just double the work. We could just start in Framer and we have our website. We don't need the developer we need to partner with to create working things. We can just do it ourselves. So yeah, I think that's it for this video. I really do hope that I was able to help you with turning your Figma designs into real working websites. If you have any questions about this whole process, you can drop them in the comment section. I'm gonna do my best to answer you guys. If you also have like other questions, or like you want to dive deeper into building websites with Framer, feel free to check out my channel, Framer University. I have a bunch of tutorials for completely free that explain all sorts of different parts of the app. I also have framer.university as a website where I collect all of my resources, remixes, and different components that can actually take your Framer websites to the next level. And I think it can also help you understand how specific, scroll animations or effects or website sections are built right inside of Framer. So yeah, check out these different resources, and yeah, like this video, subscribe for more, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.